everyone. I'm Melody Ann, host of the Author Nation interview show and founder of Author Nation. Author Nation is a community of authors that help you with the accountability you need, the support, and the resources. So if you're interested in joining, please join us at authornationtube.com/join. It is scrolling past you right now. All right, today we're talking about book tours, something I think every author needs to at least seriously consider. And so we're going to be talking to Lauren Carr, who's the international best-selling author of the Mac Faraday, Lovers in Crime, Thorny Rose, Matheson Cold Case, and the Nikki Bryant Cozy Mysteries. Over 25 titles across 5 fast-paced mystery series filled with twists and turns. Realizing that she could use her experiences to help other writers achieve their dreams to be published authors, Lauren established Acorn Book Services, offering professional services, including iRead book tours to independent authors. Lauren is a popular speaker who has made appearances at conferences and writing and publishing workshops. She has also taught courses in writing, publishing, and book marketing. She lives with her husband and 2 spoiled, rotten German shepherds on a mountain. I love that, on a mountain in West Virginia's Shenandoah Valley. Please welcome Lauren. Hi, Lauren. How are you today?
Hi, Melody. How are you?
I'm excellent, except for the voice. I apologize for the voice. I'm recovering from something, so we'll just hopefully I don't
over here.
Yes, hopefully I don't lose the voice. Okay. So over 25 titles. How many titles?
29 titles, and Shadow of Murder is number 29. And 30, book number 30 is going to be The Wrong Side of Murder. That's going to be my Nikki Bryant Cozy Mysteries, the second one in that installment.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's going to come out end of June or July. Yeah.
That is a prolific writing career right there. How long does it take you to go from idea to published book?
Generally, at times, generally it can take 6 to 9 months. And what I do is when I'm writing at different stages, I'll set the book aside. I heard somebody use the term let it ferment while I do something else. And now that I work with iRead book tours, that takes up so much of my time. I'm doing what I used to hate doing whenever I had a full-time job. And, and I was working for the government and I was working in their publishing house and doing editing. I could only write on the evenings and the weekends. And I dreamed of the time that I could write full time. Well, then I started writing full time, did that for a few years, but then I started helping other authors. And now I'm right back to where I was before. I'm doing iReads, Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends and the evenings, I'm doing my own writing.
Yeah.
So, but what I did with Shadow of Murder, I started whenever this was in the proofreading and it was being proofread with the proofreader, I started The Wrong Side of Murder. So I started doing what I used to do is while somebody else had it, I was working on the next book. And I actually got through more than half of The Wrong Side of Murder while Shadow of Murder was being proofread. Right. So that way I always have a book going. That's what I was. And I don't watch TV. So, I don't watch TV. So, time that some people will spend watching TV, I'm writing.
You don't need TV. You have your own TV going on in your mind, is my guess. So how long is it taking you to write 30 books?
It started by my first book, A Small Case of Murder, that came out in 2000. I have to think about 2004. That came out. I have to look that up. As we so long. So 2004. So we're talking roughly about 18. I started working on A Small Case of Murder. I know the perfect. I started working on A Small Case of Murder when my son, who's going to turn 24 next month, and he was 6 months old. I started working on it. It was published in 2004.
Fair enough. So it's been about 24 years.
24 years.
About 24 years.
Yeah, and my first book took up until then I was writing screenplays. I actually started writing when I was a little kid. when I was about 12 years old, I submitted my first short story to a teenage girls magazine writing contest. It was a kidnapping story, a romance one, but that was first, I just was always interested in mysteries. That is if there's not a dead body, I'm not interested in it. But I was writing like screenplays and articles and humor columns. I always put a lot of humor in my books.
Yeah.
And so whenever I quit working for to be a full-time mom, that lasted like only about 6 months.
Right.
And then I started working on my first novel. I decided to tackle a first novel.
Brilliant. So what advice, besides don't watch television, which I think is great advice, besides that, what is your best piece of advice if somebody wants a career like yours?
To treat it like it's a career. And I've worked with a lot of authors with iRead book tours and with Acorn Book Services. I've published other authors' books. And what I find is those who actually succeed and make a living at it. And I've worked with some who they started out, well, when am I going to sell a book? To they sell books regularly all the time. And I've mentored some authors. And what they do is that the ones who make it, they treat it like a career. Even when it seems like you're not selling anything, they work on it every day. And what I mean by they work on it is I have worked with authors who they say, I just want a book that I can put on my coffee table and tell people I wrote that.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. I don't want to do book signing events. I even worked with an author who he worked in marketing. And he wrote his first book. He had a whole series. He showed me a stack of outlines for books. He had like 10 books in this series.
Yeah.
And I helped him publish his first book. And he never came to even one book event. He would never I'd schedule group author events and he'd never come to one because he didn't want to do that. He worked in marketing. He knew what to do. And he would sit there and tell me what he knew, but he enjoyed sitting there and writing.
Yeah.
I love nothing more than sitting there and writing. I love nothing more but I want to make a living at this. I want to be, I put my son through college doing this. And what it is, and the best way to think about it is if you're a doctor, and you want to make a living, you're going to have to deal with the insurance company. You may hate it. You may hate the forms, but it's part of the business. And if you want to be a successful author, you got to do the marketing. You got to figure out, you got to do a website. I had a friend in marketing who, I would send authors her way and she would start them from the ground up. And she said, as soon as she'd say, let's start putting together your website, they drop off the face of the earth.
Right.
And then you never see them again.
Right.
You got to do the stuff that you don't like, and you don't have to do it. I'll do it, a few hours a day. I work on social media. I work on updating my website. I work on, I have a book tour for myself going on, has 98 stops. That took time to set that up.
Oh, 90. Okay. Well, we're going to come back to that. Hold on. 98 stops. I was thinking 6 to 12. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. And if you're out there listening and you have questions, Howard Brown, I see that you have a question. I will definitely address that with Lauren in a few minutes. But I actually just want to ask Lauren about her most recent book first. So just hang on tight just for a minute. Well, because Lauren, I really want to hear about your latest book.
Okay. All right. It is Shadow of Murder.
Yes.
And this is the 14th Mac Faraday mystery. And and I introduced a couple new characters in this. This is, I'm getting so many authors coming, my COVID book. This has nothing to do with COVID. I don't even mention COVID in my books because my books are escapes. But this is what this is about. This is about Nikki, Eric, I'm thinking Nikki Bryant. That's the book I'm working on now.
Yes.
Eric, I finished this book back in January. It's about true crime blogger. I wanted to have a blogger in my books because I work with bloggers all the time. And this is a true crime blogger, Erica Hart, and she is starting a new chapter in her life. And she goes to Deep Creek Lake, Maryland, which is where Mac Faraday lives. And as she is entering town, a dark shadow darks through the mountain road, and it sends her SUV into the lake. She survives, and she is rescued by Dusty O'Mara, who is the new deputy chief of police there in the area. And so this starts their mystery. I have a little bit of paranormal going on in here. Generally, I'm a mystery author, but just to let you know, there's a little bit of paranormal going on there, and there's a little bit of romance. And at the same time, they discover the body in a dismantled swimming pool. And that ends up being a friend of Erica Hart's. And she's a true crime blogger, and she's going to get into this case with, she's going to be shadowing them to, investigate this murder that happened several years ago. So, and we also have, I get a lot of murders going on in my books because I like murder mysteries. Like I said, if there's not a dead body, I'm not interested. So.
Yeah. So wait. So Mac Faraday, this is book 14. Is that right?
This is book 14. Mac Faraday. He is a retired police, homicide detective from Georgetown, Maryland. The premise of the book, the entire series, is that he was an underpaid homicide detective in Georgetown. His wife left him and took everything. All he got were the credit card bills. And the day that the judge, she left him for another man, and who happened to be a district attorney. And, so they had their political friends who, basically slammed Mac Faraday. The day that his divorce was final, he's walking out of the courtroom. This is described in the first book. He's walking out of and this little man approaches him in an expensive suit. He thinks that he's running from another lawyer. He knows this is a lawyer. Okay, this is somebody else with a bill, and the little man chased him for about 4 blocks before Mac Faraday felt sorry for him and stopped. Okay, what do you want? And the little guy is to inform him that his birth mother had passed away and left him $270 million in her estate. So,
right.
He was running from $270 million, and his ex-wife got none of it.
Of course.
And her estate, and it turns out that his birth mother, he knew he was adopted. So it wasn't some big surprise but he didn't know who his birth mother was. And so what his birth mother ends up being Robin Spencer, and the town they're living in that this takes place in is Spencer, Maryland, which is a little town on Deep Creek Lake. Spencer, Maryland is a fictional town. Deep Creek Lake is a real area. It's a resort area. So it's made up of the wealthy, and they're seasonal. They come in and out. It's a real area, Deep Creek Lake. But he gets her estate, everything. She has left, trust funds for his 2 grown children who are in other mysteries. They come and go. And she also left, there's a guest cottage that her secretary, her assistant lives in, and that's Archie Monday, who is this attractive blonde. And so we get some stuff happening there with them. She's allowed to live in the guest cottage for as long as she wants, and Mac Faraday has no desire for her to leave.
Right.
He also inherits Robin Spencer's German Shepherd, Gnarly, who is a military canine that the Army does not want to talk about. So
interesting.
So
that's fun.
Yeah, Gnarly, Gnarly was not in the first 3 or 4 drafts of It's Murdered by Someone, which was the first book that came out.
Yeah.
The first book in this series. Gnarly was not in this. But Mac Faraday had a dog, or rather, he inherited this German Shepherd who was just more or less like a prop. But he, at the time between the third and fourth drafts of It's Murder, My Son, my son and I went to a football game, and during halftime, my son back then was maybe 6 years old, and this woman comes up to him with a puppy in her arms, and she said, "Would you like to hold my puppy?" And Tristan looked at me and like, what harm can come from holding a puppy?
Sure, one time, yeah, right. I would have said no.
Yeah, as soon as it was in his arms, she said, "You can keep him, he's free," and she was gone. And we couldn't find her. So that was Ziggy. And that dog got into so much trouble.
So
I mean, I can't tell you how much trouble that dog. I mean, I could go on for an hour telling you stories about Ziggy, and I actually had him analyzed. I grew up on a farm. I know about dogs. I never saw a dog like this. This dog would find trouble to get into. And I had him analyzed, and a dog psychologist said basically he's so intelligent that he's easily bored.
Yeah.
And whenever he gets bored, he gets into trouble. That's Gnarly. So Gnarly ended up becoming a full-fledged character in It's Murder, My Son. and people still, as a matter of fact, the only complaint people have had about Shadow is Murder is not enough Gnarly. They want enough, Gnarly actually, he actually becomes mayor of Spencer, Spencer, Maryland. He becomes the mayor. But he's a kleptomaniac. He's extremely intelligent, and whenever he gets bored, he steals stuff. So that's
that sounds great. Sounds like a lot. This sounds like the book series sounds like a lot of fun. But okay, so you're on a book tour with this new book.
Yeah.
Did you tell me 98 stops?
I counted them up before we started because you asked me. I had that on your list of questions. How many? They're now what they're not all reviews of Shadow and Murder. With virtual book tour companies, we work with bloggers. Bloggers are the ones who do the posts and they do the reviews and they do spotlights and guest posts and bloggers come and go. And it's been a few years since I've done a tour for a Mac Faraday book, so I just put them all out there. And I have some blog now. So we have 14 books in the series, and I have several bloggers who are reading every single book, because my books come out in print, they come in Kindle, and they come in audiobook too. So, so one blogger can have 14 reviews, and that's 14 stops.
Right.
So so that's how it got up to that many, and so what so that's, I counted it. I couldn't believe 98 stops. I think that's the biggest tour I've ever done. That was that.
And so you said they're not all reviews. So can you tell us a little bit about the different types of stops you're having in your book tour?
I have, I have one blogger who, she's doing spotlights. So, and what she's doing is she's grouping them, so that's kind of different. I have some who they are just doing a series spotlight. And see, and I, as the book tour coordinator, I put together a media kit. With every tour, I take all the materials and I put together a media kit that I send to the bloggers. So that's what they can put. So if somebody's a blogger and they are like, well, do I want to be a tour host? The tour company, the tour coordinator will send you all the materials that you post. And as a matter of fact, I'll even send it in an HTML doc. So all you have to do, if you know anything about coding, just copy and paste it right onto and everything's there. I have some bloggers who they want to review the book. And audiobooks are becoming more and more popular. So, and I have some bloggers, they don't have time to sit down and read a physical book. They want to listen to the audiobook. So I have some that's what they are doing. They're doing just as a matter of fact, I have some bloggers who have known me for years and read many of my books. And they said, well, but I want to do reviews for your books. And they've done reviews for the print or the ebook. Well, let me do a review for, as a matter of fact, I have two bloggers who's doing that. They read all the physical books. They're doing all the audiobooks for this tour. So I'm getting audiobook reviews for the earlier books, for books that I released years ago, going back to It's Murder, My Son, which
Yeah.
I think came out in 2011 or maybe 2012.
Yeah. And so are there any interviews in the
Yes, I
book
do
tour?
author interviews. One of the things that, and as somebody who's not familiar with virtual book tours, because I've had authors say, well, I'm going to be traveling during my tour. I'm not going to be able to sit down for an interview. Well, you do the interview ahead of time.
Right.
With most of our, I'm trying to get more bloggers, who do video podcast blogs, that we're trying to get more that are doing that, in which case they're recorded ahead of time and then edited. That's part of authors on iTours. That's part of iRead book tours. But if like an author, like I've had authors traveling during their tour, and if they can get Wi-Fi, they can check in once a day to see their stops. But what they'll do is you can do what's called a pre-written author interview, which is great. That's where, or a pre-written guest post. That's where the author or their publicist or marketing agent, they decide, well, this is what I want potential readers to know about the book. So they sit down and they write it ahead of time. And then I send it to the blogger, and the blogger puts it on the post, so it's less work for the blogger. And then it's, you are getting the message that you want to get out there to people about your book. That's what's great about these pre-written off. And then we have some bloggers who they know, they know their audience, and they know what their audience wants to know. So they will put together the questions. And I have a couple of bloggers who they read the book ahead of time, and then they base their questions or the topic for the guest post on what they've read.
Got it. So should every author do book tours? Are there authors who should not be doing book tours? Fiction, nonfiction, is there the right type of author who should be doing a book tour? Should we all be doing book tours?
I think most authors should be doing book tours. I think it depends on the authors. I know a couple authors who they don't want to do book tours. I don't know, I don't know why. There's one I know who really embraces the in-person events. I'm somebody who I like to stay home. I don't like to get dressed. that type of thing. The wonderful thing about virtual book tours is that it is virtual. So you can do, the joke I say is you can do a virtual book tour. You can do personal appearances naked, and nobody, because you're in your own home, and you do it ahead of time, and you do it in your travel. Plus, there's so many people who are on the internet nowadays, and that's where they're getting their information. And a virtual book tour is with, books. You're doing it with book lovers, so you want to, as an author, you want to get the word out to book lovers, and so many are online. So what you need to do is, so it's all ahead of time. So you're getting it out to your audience. And yes, there are some books that are harder to fill a tour than others. For example, but that there are some who, like, for example, nonfiction books that are about niche topics are actually harder to fill. And in that case, then what you want to do is you want a publicist or a marketing agent who's going to go to that audience, where that target audience is. I'm trying to think of an example. For an example, if your book is about, let's just throw this out here, about business, strictly about business, that's about, a computer technology, you may not want to do a book tour with me that is general book lovers. You may want to get a publicist who's going to get you onto blogs about computer technology. Rather than book loving blog, about our general readers, your target audience is about computer technology or cybersecurity or something that your readers are going to go to. That's the whole thing about book marketing, period, is you need to find out where your target audience is, and you need to get your book in front of that audience.
Yeah.
Where is your target audience going? That's what you need to do. And that's just the whole thing, and not all and I'll even say, even though I have a virtual book tour company, not all virtual book tour companies are for all books. There are some books that my bloggers aren't interested in. One thing is horror. They're not interested in horror books. They're not interested in books about zombies.
Right.
They're they're not interested in vampire love stories. They're just not interested in that.
Yeah.
So, and that, I try to find a virtual book tour company that they would be interested in.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Now, I want to talk more about virtual book tours, but we have a question. I think we'll start with this. Howard Brown has asked, will the trend of virtual book tours mixed with in-person book tours continue? He's asking, as this is advice for him. He is a first-time author publishing this summer. So he's wondering, I guess, should I be doing both in-person and virtual, or just virtual? What would you say to that?
I would say, as where we're going right now, as a culture, is both. You try to get some in-person book events if you can, but do try to also do a lot of in-person events. One of the things that I had, Shadow of Murder is the first book I got out in 2 years, and whereas up until the pandemic, I was doing 3 or 4 books a year. What happened was the pandemic, and when the pandemic hit, all these in-person events got canceled. And I had all these publicists coming to me. I need to book a tour. I need to book it now. So for, like a year and a half, I was doing 60, 70 hours a week on virtual book tours for other authors. Yeah. Well, now I'm seeing more. As a matter of fact, I was asked to do an in-person event just yesterday. Somebody contacted me and said, can you bring some books over here and do an event for me? I want to get some people in. So more than you need to do the thing with virtual book tours. The thing with book marketing is you should not put all your eggs in one basket, because there are audiences who aren't going certain places. And, so if you put all your eggs in a virtual book tour and banking on getting readers who are going to be book lovers, who are going to book blogs, you're going to be missing a potential audience. You're going to be missing the library audience, people who go get their books from the library. Yeah. You're going to be missing, people who discover books at book clubs. So you want to get your book served in front of book clubs. You want to get in-person book events. You want to get, you want to try to get an even mixture. But, virtual book tours, that's a place to get your books in front of a lot of people, and that's why we try to get an even mixture of bloggers who do different genres.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. Thank you. I'm sure that helps, Howard. Thank you very much. Howard, if you have other questions, please drop them in the comments. I would love to ask Lauren. I just want to say hi, Shirley May. Shirley May saying hello, everyone. And I just want
Shirley.
Just want to say hello back. Thank you for joining us today. So what are the benefits of virtual book tours?
Well, the benefits of virtual book tours is, as opposed to in-person events, there's an expense that goes into in-person events. You have to get the books, which generally you have to pay for. You have to, take that lot of time out of your day to drive someplace. You do the event, hope that people show up. Yeah, there's also the publicity ahead of time. And then as soon as the event is over, it's over. Everybody's forgotten about it. Nobody knows about it. Maybe somebody took a video and they'll put it on YouTube, or maybe you have some pictures that you can put up on your website. The thing with a virtual book tour is it is the good version of that beer hat that somebody took a picture of you in college and it shows up 20 years later. That's what a virtual book tour is. is that you get a really great review. So you have a really great tour. You can continue promoting those stops. You can put those reviews on places. You can put links. I am still promoting great reviews that I got 5 years ago.
Mm.
I'm still promoting those great reviews, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship, because book bloggers become book bloggers because they love authors. And so if you're an author on that book tour, then you are promoting and you're posting the reviews for that author and you're linking them back to that blog. That's bringing traffic into that blogger's blog. That a blogger will get upset if the author's not promoting that stop.
Yeah.
Because they're counting on your readers discovering their blog by coming to the blog to read the review. And meanwhile, you have the beneficial of their blog, of their followers discovering you, because especially if the blogger loves the book, they're talking up your book, so it's a mutually beneficial relationship, on virtual book tours.
Yeah.
That's why, and also the bloggers, they're getting content, for, like, even if they're not going to, I have bloggers who they may not be interested in the book, or they may have something going on that they're not going to be able to have time to read the book, but they'll say, I'll feature it on my blog, so have the author write a guest post, have them send me the media kit.
Yeah.
I have content for that day on my blog, and you're getting exposure.
Absolutely. And I have to say, I love authors who come, because I interview authors all the time. Every Thursday at noon, I'm interviewing someone. And I love it when authors come to me and hand me a media kit. It's like, thank you, right? You've given me the cover, the links, your social media, the description, your bio, often questions I should ask you, like all in one place. It's how to do my job for me and make me really happy to interview you is show up with the media kit, right? That's I love an author with the media kit. So I just want to point that out, that it's absolutely a beneficial relationship, right?
Yes.
I was on your website and I noticed that there are different types of book tours. And I noticed this with other book tour companies. There are all these different types of book tours. Can you break them down a little bit for us so we can understand, what they are, and maybe like how do we choose the right one for us?
Well, if, we have the spotlight tours and we have the review tours. A spotlight tour is where your book is just featured on the blog. I send them, you send me the media, your materials. I put together the media kit. I send it to the blogger. So that is just a spotlight tour. Spotlight with author interviews and guest posts. That is where you have the exposure. Your book is being featured on the blogs, but the bloggers, they have the option of if they want an author interview or a guest post. Those cost a little bit more because I have to dole out the author interviews and the guest posts. So then we get to the review tours. Now there's the basic review tour. That's just 10 stops, 10 guaranteed reviews. There's no spotlights. It's just, I find the bloggers who are going to review your book. And review tours, whether it's iReads or any other company you go to, the bloggers are going to need time to read the book for a review. So they need the time to receive the book and read. So for us, it's 8 weeks to set up a review tour. If there's reviews, it's going to take 8 weeks to set up because we have to arrange them, getting the books, and keep in mind, if you're doing a review tour, if you want a review tour, you need to send out the books to them, and that's, we're talking physical books. A lot of bloggers like physical books. That's their gift. That's what they like. That's their thank you for doing this tour. And then now we have an introductory tour that has 5 reviews, but unlimited spotlights. And, and generally I'm going to be able to find 5 bloggers to review the book. If I'm kind of questioning, see, we guarantee our book tours. iRead book tours. We do guarantee them. So if I'm not able to fill the tour, I'm going to give you a partial refund, and that means I'm not going to sell you a tour that I can't fill, and I've had publicists come to me who've done other companies who they paid the money and only about 20% of the stops got filled.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Or that only about 20% of the stops actually happen. They were scheduled, they had this whole schedule, and then the blogger doesn't post. Well, I nag the blogger if they so, I'll nag the blogger until they post, or they, or I remove them as a tour host and they're never going to be on another tour.
Yeah.
So it's because we guarantee our that we've actually had publicists and marketing agents come to us who've had horrible experience with other book tours who, I started doing virtual book tours since they first started cropping up, because I love the idea of not having to leave my house,
Yeah.
and not having to, I live on a mountain, so it takes about a half hour to get anywhere, driving like 3 or 4 hours to go to a book event, and, with a, big bag of books, I hate that. So what they, so I start, and I learned there were a lot of, even some fans of mine say, I love books. I'm going to become a virtual book tour, coordinator. And, and I had horror stories. I had one who she quit before the tour started because she said it was too hard, and she started working at Starbucks. I had a friend of mine who she paid for a virtual book tour company, paid the money, never heard from the tour coordinator after that, and never got her money back. So we've been around for so long that that we're not going to close up tomorrow.
Yeah. And that begs the question, how do we choose the right one? How do we choose the right book tour company?
Well, you want one who's going to be around. So, and actually I bought iRead book tours because the founder, Laura Fabini, she, I was her number one client. I liked the company so much that I bought it. She decided to retire. And so you want one that's been around for a while, that they have bloggers. You also want one who's going to be conscientious about where your stops are going to be. What I suggest you do, if you want to know if, the blogs that are where your book's going to appear, this is what I tell people is we actually have, if you go to our current tours page, you'll see a menu over on the right-hand side, and look for a book that's in the category that your book is in. Say, for example, your book is a mystery. And if you click on the mystery category, that's going to bring up the tours that are currently happening in mysteries and even the ones in the past. Find one that's recent, because bloggers do come and go. And that will give you and find a book that's most like yours. And that will give you an idea of, if you sign with us, where your stops are going to be. That's what you want to do. So you won't be surprised if, I didn't expect to, be on this type of tour with these type of blogs. That will give you an idea. You don't want to go with a virtual, like I said, I started virtual book tours whenever they first came out. The first virtual book tour company I did, I do these nice gritty cozies, but they're still kind of cozies with dogs, and I don't have any sex scenes, or rather I close the door. You kind of know what they're doing, but I close the door. I had a virtual book tour coordinator, and this was when they first started, who booked me on sites where you had to certify that you were 18 to enter that site, and it was erotica. My cozy little mystery. And I even told the tour coordinator, they're going to be really disappointed because nobody's having sex in my book.
Right. Right.
Nobody's even naked, so you don't want a virtual book tour company that's going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like I said, not every tour company is for everyone. And if I have to turn down a book, I'll suggest other virtual book tour companies that will
Yeah.
give you more service.
Yeah.
where you-
And there are some that specialize. I know there's some specifically for sci-fi. There's some specifically for fantasy, erotica. There are some that specialize, and it's like finding the right publisher. Don't pitch your cookbook to someone who does memoirs, right?
Right.
Same in book tours. Exactly. I just want to say, Howard Brown did say kind thanks for your answer. He appreciated
Thank
that.
you, Howard.
Anne Beal has joined us. Hiya, great session. Thank you for saying so, Anne. And Shirley as well. Shirley May says, thank you for all this good information. If you have more questions, now is the time to answer as we're wrapping up. I do have a really important question for you, though. So it's really important that we talk about the author's responsibility. So what is the author's responsibility? If I'm the author and I want this, I put the wrong one up, and I want this to be a success, what is the author's responsibility in this?
You need to go in with the right attitude. Something that I was told when my first book came out was, and I don't hear people say it anymore, but it's true. And I found this in working with authors. Nobody cares as much about your book as you do, because it's your book and it's your baby. Like nobody's going to love your child as much as you.
Yeah.
And you need to have that attitude. I have had authors give me their book, set up a book tour, and then I don't hear from them during the entire tour. It's just, it's done. They're off doing that, and they're expecting me to make them a bunch of money. And, the thing is, there have been times that I've had 10 books on tour at the same time, and I have to take care of all of them. And that is doing the linking, chasing down bloggers if something's happened, that type of thing. So you need to be involved. And that's like whenever your posts happen, you need to promote them as much as possible. Send them out to everyone. I always get nervous if I have an author who is not on social media at all. I get a little bit nervous. Because if they have that means that they are totally dependent on me and the bloggers getting the word out about their books. So before the book tour company, just be at least on Facebook or Twitter or, nowadays, or Pinterest, or hire a social media manager. Like, I'm so busy nowadays, I actually have a social media manager to manage social media. But you need to care about your book. Don't think that you can just hand it off to somebody. And I'm not just talking about a virtual book tour company. I'm talking about publicists and marketers. Don't expect your marketer or your publicist to be able to do everything for you. You need to be involved. You need to be on top of things, and and that's all part of treating it like it's a career.
Absolutely. And so if you're listening, go on a book tour with iReadBookTours.com. Unless you're writing a nonfiction about a very specific technology for cyber crimes, then it won't work.
Then you might want to find somebody who has those contacts. Yeah.
And then you might want to find somebody who has those contacts. Yes. Have we missed anything talking about book tours? Because I want to ask you what you're working on right now. But just before, I want last question about book tours. Have we missed anything that's really important?
Is that, be sure to, leave a lot of lead time, of when if you want a review tour, you need 8 weeks, and it's okay to, we actually do set up tours, try to schedule them around your release. So if you have a release date that's 8 weeks, then, then you can work with me and I can work with you to try to have that book tour. I actually have authors who they're planning their release in October. They're already booked for a tour.
Exactly. Good point. Which just to add to that, a reminder that when your book is not released and you're setting up a book tour, you can get advanced review copies made and send those out. They may not have that final proofread or the perfect formatting, and I think bloggers know that. Sometimes you're still in those final stages of that final proofread.
Yeah,
Still
I
needs to be
did that.
well edited, but just maybe not that final proofread. But that's what advanced review copies are for, to send out to bloggers before the publishing date so that you can get this blog tour set up before you publish. So they're coming out as the book is released. You're getting the pre-sales, so Lauren can help you with all of that and help you understand all of that. I just wanted to point that out. And so iReadBookTours.com, the link is also in the description. But before we go, Lauren, I want to ask you, because you're working on another book. I know you are. So if you want to read Lauren's books, find them at mysterylady.net. Lauren, what are you working on right now?
Right now, I am working on the second book in my Nikki Bryant Cozy Mysteries. This is not as dark as Shadow and Murder. This I needed something lighter after Shadow and Murder. So this is going to come out in either June or July. Is The Wrong Side of Murder. This is the first book. So if you haven't read the Killer Deadline, then go ahead and get that, and then you'll be all ready for The Wrong Side of Murder, which is the second Nikki Bryant book.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And if people want to get in touch with you, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Go to mysterylady.net, click on the contact page. Yeah. You can sign up for my newsletter, and I don't besiege you with newsletters every week. It's just whenever something is happening. And fill out the contact form, and I'll get the email, and I'll be able to answer your questions for you.
Perfect. That's mysterylady.net. That is also in the description. Thank you so much for coming out today, Lauren, and speaking with us. I've really enjoyed speaking to you. I think book tours are something that authors, as you say, you can do it in your pajamas from home. And yes. I actually think it's a really, really good idea for first authors, and as a way to kind of reinvigorate a book that you haven't been focusing on in a little while. So thank you very much for coming and sharing that with us today.
Thank you for having me, Melody.
Yes. Okay. You have a great rest of your day. Thank you, everyone. There will be no interview next Thursday. Unfortunately, we're going to take a tiny little break, but we'll be back right after that.